Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're talking all ergonomics on knives. We're going to take a look at some of my favorite knives with what I think are some of the best ergonomics out there available today. With that being said, you're going to see some knives that have been on the channel before, but you're also going to see some ones that don't make many appearances, so I think it's going to be a good mixture of that. I'm going to work a little harder on keeping these lists a little shorter to save you guys a little time, but at the same time give you some enjoyable content. So we'll see how this one goes. I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to get these out of the way. Got my sticker and my magnet here, which are available on my Etsy shop. Just search Wayne Sharp World. Going to get rid of that just for I made these little those little paper cards to help me organize the videos that I keep in my phone, so I know exactly what I'm posting and I don't have to. It saves me a little time looking at the videos before I know which one I'm sending or uploading. So that's why that's there. Now let's get right into it, and we're going to start off with some smaller knives. And we're going to start off with the smallest knife, and that is the Cold Steel Mini Tuff Lite. This guy, I mean, you can look at it and just kind of assume, oh, it's going to feel good in hand. But when you have a knife kind of this small and with the choils there that your fingers just go right into, and not really jimping, but kind of notches up there that kind of help seat your thumb a little on the spine of the blade, it just makes for a very, very, very comfortable ergonomic handle. And what really is the key to this knife is this blade becomes part of your hand when you hold it. It's so close to your fingers, but at the same time, your fingers and hand are very well protected. Now, you don't have a lot of blade to work with. This is just a little over an inch. It's not very much, but at the same time, what is there is very, very slicey and effective. Not a bad little EDC fifth pocket carry by any means whatsoever. But that, to me, is the key with ergonomics on a knife, is ergonomics that are so comfortable, that hug your hand so well, the knife feels like it's part of your hand. That's very, very important, because knives can be dangerous. They are not a weapon. They are a tool. And you can hurt yourself with any tool. There's a lot of things that can be made weapons. A knife is one of very, very many, but it's a tool first. And you have to make sure that you're handling it with care and that you have a good grip and you're being, conscious when you're using this and paying attention. And the more comfortable it is in your hand, the easier that is to do. So that is the Cold Steel Mini Tuff Lite. This is a great option and a very, very affordable option, somewhere in the $20 range. 20, low 20s, something like that. Very good option, Cold Steel Mini Tuff Lite. Next up, we have another budget option here, and that is one of my favorites. That's the CRKT Pilar. This is a Jesper Voxness design, and these ergos here are basically the same as the Cold Steel Mini Tuff Lite, just slightly bigger. I think you have a somewhere right around a 2.25 inch blade, something right around there. So a little bigger blade, a little more of a palm filling handle. I have a custom micarta scale on this one, but it's just, again, the ergos are even just a little bit better because most people have a little bigger hands that would fit this better than the Mini Tuff Lite. You just have a little more blade to work with, and it's just super solid with a nice frame lock design. And again, anytime you get a Jesper Voxness design, it's going to fit the hand pretty darn well. And to just add to the level of enjoyment, you have a nice cutout here that you can flip the blade out very, very easily. So that is the CRKT Pilar, and this is another one that's very affordable without the custom scale. You're looking at like $23, $24.95, something like that, mid-20s, really not that bad at all. The CRKT Pilar. Let's move on. Got a couple more small knives here. Going to move up a little in price. We're going to hit in the Civivi market with the Civivi Odium. This is another one. This is a Ferrum forged design, and anyone that knows Ferrum forged knows they are synonymous with fabulous ergonomics, and you see that with the two choilish areas here for your fingers, and you hold it just like that, and guys, it's ready to work. This is a knife that's very easy to use discreetly, especially with the black blade. You have a nice deep carry pocket clip, but more than anything, nice contoured handles that also factor in to a very comfortable grip. You have very smooth edges. You have a sturdy stainless steel frame, liners on the G10 handle, but all in all, it just feels very, very, very well. Very useful blade, strong D2 blade steel, and more than anything, you also have that good action. But again, like I said, today we are focusing mostly on ergonomics, but this is a very complete package overall. That's the Civivi Odium, and I believe this guy is coming in somewhere in I want to say the mid 40s, very low 50s, something like that. I don't have the prices down for all these ones. This was just a really good idea I had last second, and I wanted to put something together to get this out to you guys before I headed out of town. But this is definitely somewhere in the in the mid 40s to low 50s range, so still a very reasonable price for an extremely good quality knife, and also a very attractive piece as well. And last on the small knives area, we have one that's a little more expensive, and that that is none other than the Spyderco Lil Native. Now this guy here, I have some titanium scales, which I absolutely love. I think it just gives the knife a nice neutral look, but it's everything you love in a Spyderco, very similar to the Shaman, just in a very, very small package. I believe this is a 1.9-inch blade, so just a hair under 2 inches, and you got the compression lock that works very well, and you can Spidey flick it, which is very nice and fun, makes it fidgety, or you can also, of course, just slow roll it out. But the Ergos, again, you have those double choils, and that, to me, that's very important to have the front finger choil, and then also some type of other curvature or choil for the rest of your fingers to sit in, because again, it makes it hug your hand, it makes the blade part of your hand, and makes it just that much safer to use. Great for detail work. Excellent, excellent fifth pocket knife here. This is one of, if not, it's really hard to, I'm starting to really like smaller knives, and this Lil Native here has given me a good reason to do that. This is easily one of my favorites. At some point, I will bring a video out to you guys of my favorite small knives, because I didn't think throughout my knife hobby and interest that I would ever become this fascinated with smaller knives. But I have to say that that is just the case. I'm becoming a fan of small knives. I still like my bigger 3.25 to 4-inch blades, but these smaller knives are very, very nice and great to pair with bigger knives. That being the Spyderco Lil Native, another one with killer ergonomics. And this guy comes in a little higher. I want to say for a stock model, you're talking $120, I think. So not cheap, but you get great steel. And of course, like we're hitting on today, absolutely excellent ergonomics. Now, next up, going to get into a little more full-size knives, and we'll start off with another knife that's under $100, and one of the best knives under $100 you can get. In my opinion, the best, if you watch my video of my favorite knives under $100, that's the Ferrum Forged Stinger. It just has excellent looks and all that stuff, but again, we're going to hit these Ergos, and it's a Ferrum Forged design, so you know it's going to have that trademark Ferrum Forged Ergos, with just the perfect places to set your finger. It is a nice slim handle, and it's just contoured very well, so the back of the knife kind of curves down here and just sits in your hand perfectly, giving you a lot more blade to work with than what you've seen on these other knives so far, and just feels absolutely great. And I really just like the design and lines of this knife in general. Nice, tactical, but at the same time pretty classy. Just a great piece overall with fantastic ergos, that being the Ferrum Forged Stinger. And I believe this comes in at $90 if I remember correctly. Next up, we're going to hit the Spydercos. We're going to hit them all at once. I got 3 of them. Now, there's a lot of Spydercos that could go on this list, but I got 3. First one, the Spyderco Man X2, like I've said before. You've seen this in my best knives, best EDCs over $100. It's just a great one. It's one of the more underrated knives in Spyderco's lineup, and it just has a great feel in hand, especially if you have a little wider hands, because this is a wider scale and handle. You still got the nice choil. You got excellent jimping to keep your thumb locked in when you're doing any type of real working cuts, and it just feels great. Have a little extra down here if you need to move back and not use that front choil, to use the full amount of the blade with your finger being nowhere close, and however you hold it, like this or like this, it feels fantastic. That is the Spyderco Man X2, and it is the first of 3 Spydercos you are going to be seeing on the channel for this episode. And this knife is coming in anywhere from, I want to say it's in the low 100-ish for the base models. Again, Spydercos can go anywhere in price depending on materials and blade steel and all that good stuff. Next up, this is one that everyone knows and loves, but I grabbed the different one just to kind of be a little different today, and this is the Deadpool, named by you guys, but more known by everybody as the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This is the Paramilitary 2 with a Tonto Blade, a Blade HQ exclusive. And of course, what makes the Paramilitary 2 just an ergonomic home run is what you see right here. Again, it's kind of the Spyderco recipe. You have a nice little thumb ramp with good jimping. You have that finger choil. You have the nice curvature in the handle. And this is also a thicker handle. The Paramilitary 2 is a somewhat of a, I don't know if bubbly is the right word or bulky, but it just has a bigger handle than a lot of other knives. And when it comes to ergos, I think that plays in a lot of people's favor. It feels great. Again, you can move your grip back and still have an excellent purchase on the knife and just kind of extend that blade length a little. And it's just, again, it's one of the more versatile, popular, loved by everyone, almost everyone EDCs out there. That's the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. You also, obviously, like I said before, this is the Tonto Blade, so you can get the regular drop point blade that is also a little thinner, a little better of a slicer. This is a much thicker knife, but at the same time, great for EDC use with the little extra amount of abuse you can throw at this. You definitely don't have to worry about breaking this tip off. Let me tell you, that's a if you ever have a knife that you want to use as a pry bar, which I never recommend, but if you absolutely had to, this wouldn't be a bad one to do it with. Spyderco Paramilitary 2 Tonto. And our last Spyderco. This is a Spyderco you don't see on my channel a lot, because as much as I really do love it, I'm not going to shy away from that. The price of this guy is just ridiculous, and that is none other than, everyone already knew it once I said the price is ridiculous, the Spyderco Shaman. Now this one has a little more of a reason to be in the $200 range. This is the Sprint Run, the only Sprint Run I have in my collection, but it is the crew wear with micarta scale Sprint Run that came out last year, or gosh, and now that we're in 2021, I believe that was 2 years ago. But again, when you're talking excellent ergonomics for a big knife, you don't need to look any farther than the Shaman. It is just, as you see everywhere around here, the scales are contoured and rounded and just super, super smooth finish. So when you go to hold this in your hand, it just sits. It just sits and it stays with great jimping. Again, jimping on the choil here, and it's got the Spyderco recipe for great ergos. You see it on a lot of their knives in slightly different styles and appearances, but it's on a lot of them, and it really is great. There's a lot of Spyderco knives that have excellent ergonomics. These are my 3 favorites. But just, well, technically 4, because you had the Lil Native earlier up there, but I included that with the small knives instead of the Spydercos. But regardless, just, I really wish this Shaman, because if you get a base model of this knife with just black G10 and S30V instead of the CPM crew wear, I think it's like $200. I'm pretty sure it's at $200 now, which is just stupid. It's absolutely stupid. I got my original Shaman for $160, and it was the exact same thing. Spyderco they've really jacked their prices up over the past handful of years and left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But there's still no denying that they make great quality. They have great heat treating. A lot of their knives are American made, so they do have a lot of good things going for them. But the price increases are just getting a little out of hand, especially on this Shaman. For some reason, the Shaman is taking the hit of the price increases a lot more than the rest of them. So not really trying to figure out why that is, just throwing it out there. But nonetheless, the Shaman is probably my favorite Spyderco when it comes to ergonomics, and I like the bigger blade. Just a great big heavy-duty working knife, the Spyderco Shaman. And now that we've gotten past the Shaman, I have a budget option. If you really like the Shaman but don't want to spend $200, you can spend somewhere in the $50 or low $60 and get the Steel Will Avior. Now, the reason I'm comparing it to a Shaman is one, for size, but again, Ergos has a lot to do with it. It is the Ergos on this, in all honesty, are I would venture to say equal to that of the Shaman, and obviously extremely different appearances. We'll bring the Shaman out here one more time just to take a look at the two together. But as you can see, the lengths are very similar. The overall width is very similar. The lines on the back of the handle are very similar, and the choil and the two first finger placements are very similar. So there's a lot of similarities and ergos between these two knives, and really it comes down to price and appearance and name and brand. But man, ergos are very, very close. This feels absolutely great in hand. Scales are contoured just as well, look really good with a nice grain on that G10. And all in all, just a very fantastic offering from Steel Wheel. Easily one of my favorite Steel Wheel offerings ever. I wish it wasn't in D2, but still, again, that has a lot to do with why it's at such an affordable price, around the $50 area, mid-50s. You'll have to look it up on Blade HQ, Knife Center, wherever your favorite knife retailer is to find the exact price. But it's a very affordable offering in the budget area, and just a very, very, very pleasant feel in hand, that being the Steel Wheel Avior. Next up, what do we have next up? We're going Benchmade for this one. And this is one that's going to be no surprise. This is the Benchmade Griptillian. This is the regular size. And like I said before, on my best knives, over 100, it just fills the hand. The Griptillian is synonymous. It's been known by and referred to by many for having excellent ergos, and that hasn't changed over the years. It just hasn't. It's stayed the same. It doesn't have a choil, which I would like if there was a little choil up there, but at the same time, it feels fantastic in hand, gives you a nice ramp to push your thumb down on, and a great, plenty enough room down here on the handle to put all four fingers to have a very full, solid purchase for any type of heavy-duty cutting tasks you would encounter. And there's really not much else to say about that. The Griptillian is one of the it's one of the OGs, and not just great ergonomics, but just great overall knives. But ergonomics are definitely it's part of its name, the Griptillian. You get a solid grip that has something to do, a lot of reasoning to do with the naming of this knife, and rightfully so, the Benchmade Griptillian. Next up, we have the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. And as you guys need to know, as you guys do know, I don't need to tell you this, but it's a Jesper Voxnest design. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I say that too much, but this is why right here. As you can see on the thumbnail of this video, it's a knife that becomes part of your hand. You don't have to worry. The blade is not going to be cutting you up there on the finger choil. It looks like it might be, but it's a extremely safe knife to use. Great jimping up on the back of the spine, placed in just the right area. Excellent M390 blade steel, but again, what we're all hitting on, contoured scales, the lines of this knife, just made to hug your hand. And it just feels great. And obviously, you've already seen one other Jesper design. I could have maybe thrown another one or two in here, but I think these were probably my two favorites from him, so I put these on the list and saved a couple other ones. There's a lot of knives that have good ergonomics, but this one and the ones you're seeing here, they really are elevated from all the rest. They are absolutely excellent, and the Biblio is definitely part of that group and would make a great part in anyone's collection that's looking to kind of expand their either their size of knife. Some guys like bigger knives and some like the smaller, but either way, this would just make a great addition to anyone's collection from a great designer, and just kind of a unique design, but also a very beefy knife. And you can just carry it. Carries very well, carries all over the place, and sits in your hand perfectly. The Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. Now let's move on here. Let's move on to Zero Tolerance. We have a couple other Zero Tolerances that don't get mentioned a whole lot on the channel. This one gets some love. This is the 0562CF. You saw this on my Best Knives Over 100 video, because it absolutely definitely is. But the ergos are one of the things that make it that, because it's a slimmer knife with it's made like You just know where to put your fingers. Does not have the choil, but has good jimping up here and has a really nice guard to keep your finger from sliding up, making contact with the blade. And it just sits in your hand. And it's literally, for me personally, it feels like it's made for my hand, and I love that about it. I think there's plenty of other people that feel that too, because if you read the comments on this video, you'll probably hear a lot of people say how great the ergos are on the 0562 CF. It's definitely a knife nut favorite, and rightfully so. Absolute excellent knife with fantastic ergonomics. The ZT-0562 CF, a Rick Hinderer design. Now let's take a look at another ZT that does not get much love on this channel, but a lot of love for me personally. That is none other than the ZT-0452 CF. It is a bigger blade coming in at, I think, 3.75 to 4 inches, somewhere around there. This is a big knife, and it has a big handle, and it sits perfectly in my hand. It gives my thumb 2 places to go to. Set it right here in the back in a regular grip, or if I'm really wanting to bear down and power through a cut, I can put my thumb up here on the jimping, and the more you squeeze, your fingers will just close that frame lock up, so there is no slipping on the blade, making it an excellent cutting tool. And again, I mean, just look at it. It feels fantastic. Kind of reminds me of just a heavy duty, like a sailor's knife almost. I don't know, but it's definitely made to work, and would go great in any pocket, especially when you put a nice deep carry clip on it that actually gives you some room to put it over your pocket. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. But the clip that comes on this just wasn't cutting it, so I added that. But more than anything, again, great positioning, excellent ergos in hand, and another very awesome offering by ZT Knives. That is the 0452 CF. This one is a Dmitry Sinkovich design. Next up, we are passing the ZT, and we are on to Tucson. Going from USA to China here. And this is one of the newer Tucsons and one of my favorite Tucsons. This is the TS262. This is a tepe design and a very unique looking knife. Everything about it looks unique, but the ergos just feel classic. The handle swells into a bigger area down here that sits very well in the bigger opening of your hand. It gives your pinky a lot to wrap around, and it doesn't feel too narrow up on the index finger. All in all, it feels fantastic. I do wish there was some jimping right up here. That would be really nice, because this is pretty smooth, but at the same time, it feels so good down here. I don't necessarily need my thumb locked in up here because of all the contouring and ergonomics going on the carbon fiber part of the handle. It feels great. If I want to, I can choke up, and it fits in just fine there. No worries at all of cutting my finger on the edge of the blade. Index finger sits in very nicely and allows you to work with a little better detail with this very nice sheep's foot blade that comes on it. So overall, a very unique and very ergonomic friendly package. That is the Tucson TS262, a design from Tepe. Next up, we're going cold steel. Now, I know cold steel just got bought out recently. I'm assuming they're keeping the name Cold Steel, but who knows what they're going to be doing with their product line in the upcoming months. But with that being said, let's hit on a couple of my all-time favorites right now. That starting off with the Cold Steel Cold 4. I tried whipping it out, but I didn't want to risk cutting myself on camera again. I've done that once with the Cold Steel, and I'm over that. So we're just going to slow roll this. This is the Code 4. This is, again, just ergonomics. This is such a thin knife. This is a very thin knife, so it carries extremely well in the pocket, but sits in your hand like... It's hard to describe how it feels, but the back end here, combined with this little choil area right here, it really locks the handle in your hand. And that's important because this aluminum finish is very slick. This really could use some jimping or texturing somewhere. It has, I wouldn't even consider this jimping, kind of like markings up here, but it needs some texturing on the handle. But even without the texturing, the ergos and the way it locks into your hand are so good. I'm completely fine using this knife. It just feels great. You grip it and it's not going anywhere. And you have one of the best Tonto blades in the industry that Cold Steel makes. Excellent grind, nice thickness, very slicey. But again, this is highlighted with fantastic ergonomics. Also a bigger blade, bigger handle, nice blade to handle ratio there. Very nice looking knife. And again, just perfect in the hand. Good old Cold Steel. And moving on to our other Cold Steel, which is my favorite of the two, and you're going to see why, because you guys know I'm a big fan of Andrew Demko, and this is none other than the Cold Steel AD10. Now this is another good one. This guy is a tank. It's a thick, it is a bruiser, and it sits in your hand like that's just where it needs to stay, because it feels fantastic. It has an excellent little choil up here to where you can go up, do some detail work, and it just feels great. I love the thickness of this handle because it is considerably thicker than any other knife you've seen on this episode so far, and it's hard to even actually here's the code 4 and here's the AD10. So it's about twice as thick as the AD10. Maybe not twice as thick, but close to it. And just for another reference, we'll bring out the Spyderco Shaman, which is a little thicker, but as you can see, still considerably thinner. So you have a very beefy handle, but it's so contoured and it's so smooth and rounded everywhere that your fingers wrap around. It just fits in your hand perfectly, and it has the triad lock, which is one of the strongest strongest locks in the business. This is also a very strong knife with that thick stock there, but the lock is what we're talking about. Very strong. Don't have to worry about it closing on your hand when you have it in this very, very comfortable position here. Or you move it up there and you're still feeling just as comfy because this knife is made to stay in your hand with excellent hand-hugging ergonomics, that being the Cold Steel AD10. Now, what else do we have here? We got 3 left. Gonna have a couple budget offerings, and we're gonna end this with a little bang. So next up, we got the Kizer Sheepdog, and now this is a special one. This is for the Sheepdog in general, but this is the Kizer Sheepdog in micarta from Blade HQ. I do prefer this one much more over the titanium for a couple reasons. This is a lot more affordable. I think this knife was $90 with BD1N steel and some very nice black micarta from Kizer. And again, it's a slimmer knife, and it fits in the hand just enough. There's just enough length at the bottom of the handle here to where I have a full purchase. I have a nice guard up here, and it's just slim, and the micarta gives an excellent grip, and it really feels fantastic in my hand. I would like to see jimping up here, especially for the fact that this is a cleaver, and I feel like you could, as a powerful of a blade this is, I would like a little something right here in between that the swedge and the top of the micarta handle to just put my thumb right there on some jimping. That would have been absolutely excellent. But even without that, it feels absolutely great in hand. And you also have a very unique looking knife. There's not a lot of cleavers out there that people find so attractive, and the Sheepdog is definitely one of them. It is without a doubt the most popular cleaver style blade on the market, and for very good reason. It is a very attractive design, and it's made even better with killer ergonomics, that being the Kizer Sheepdog. And one more Kizer for you. This one here has become a quick favorite of mine thanks to the viewers recommending it, and that is none other than the Kizer Dukes. This is a very affordable knife coming in the $50 range, maybe even high 40s, somewhere in the upper 40s to low 50s. Absolutely excellent knife, and it has a great steel with N690, but again, the Ergos. This is a weird one too, because I didn't think the Ergos would be that good on it. I thought it would be very average. But for me personally, I like the way my index finger sits up and the resting point for it. And I like the texturing on the scales here, as you can see with a little bit of the light coming in. There is a texture on this, not a lot, but just enough to make it functional and usable. and your back 3 fingers sit on it very well. Your thumb sits right up here. I wish there was some jimping. I kind of see why not. This isn't exactly, I don't think it's made to be a beat the hell out of knife. I think it's more of a casual, classy EDC. So I kind of get why there's not jimping up here, but I still wish there was a little. But again, you hug it, wrap it around, wrap your hand around it, and it feels very, very good, secure, and ready to go. And maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I just feel like it's definitely a very deceiving knife when it comes to ergonomics. And you can also choke up a little if you want to, because there is a little bit of a choil there, but you want to do that with caution. I would recommend staying back here, and it feels just fine. Looks great, feels great. The Kizer Dukes. And now our last one. And I don't think I did an unboxing of this knife one time, but I don't have it on the channel a lot, and I should, because it's one of my favorite knives, and it is the Microtech Stitch. And just looking at it, you guys can probably tell. Look at the ergos. It's made to hold your hand right here. This is the biggest knife with the best ergos. It's got a 3.75 inch blade, and I have never seen 3.75 inches of blade that close to my hand and being there as safe as it is. Your fingers are fully protected. You have immense cutting power behind that edge. You can really force a lot of hard use out of this knife, and it just feels great. It has absolutely excellent texturing all over the scales here. A nice anodized or coated aluminum handle that is, again, as I said before, backed by an excellent Microtech warranty, has that Microtech flare, and just feels amazing in the hand. You can hold it back here and it still feels really good because it's long enough and contoured well enough to where it just feels great regardless. But I'm telling you what, you want to use it right here. It is just perfect. I like the way they set the button so far back. There's no way of pressing that button down while it's open to potentially close it. It's designed perfectly. It looks amazing. It's one of my all-time favorite knives from one of my all-time favorite companies, and it has some of the best all-time ergonomics. So there's no getting around this knife. This is the Microtech Stitch. So with that said, there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what I left off. I'm sure there's more that could have been mentioned. Let me know, and I'll probably be sure to agree with you, unless you say something that just really isn't that comfortable. I'll let you know about that too. But more than anything, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.